What's up, guys? Welcome back to the BirthLink podcast. How are you guys doing? I'm so glad you're here listening, and I'm so glad it's like back to the holiday season. I don't know where you're listening from, but I'm in Los Angeles, and when we get into kind of winter and it starts getting cold, like we don't really have full-on seasons, it kind of just goes from hot to cold and a little bit in between. We just had these Santa Ana winds that blew off like tree branches and took out power. And then we have the fires going on. And that's pretty normal for November time. And then December hits and it starts getting like nice and crisp and cold. And we get Christmas and all those feel good vibes. And when I started thinking about vibes and, things that made me feel really warm and safe and cozy, I start thinking, a little segue into what we're going to talk about today with Lynsey about setting and creating the environment that you're going to give birth in, right? Like, we don't have much control over the weather, but we do have control as a society and a community and as a household to create the environment around us. So, yeah, maybe it's like freezing outside and snowing, and there's no way that you would be comfortable out there. But what do you do inside your home, right? You're going to set a fire. You're going to put up maybe a Christmas tree if that's what you do, some twinkly lights and music, and you're just setting the vibe, right? But why don't we do this all the time? Why is it not a standard of care to set the vibe in our birth room, right? When we're going to meet our baby for the first time? You probably will. She mentions in this episode, we talk a little bit about setting and planning for like a baby shower. But imagine how you're going to plan for your baby's first birthday, right? Or fifth birthday or second birthday. I don't know. Like I'm preparing Kaya's birthday right now, and there's a lot of planning that goes into that. We're going to have people over, so we want to make sure that the decorations are up and that the vibe is set and that everyone's feeling good. And we want to do that ahead of time. So why aren't we doing that for the day that we meet our baby? Nobody's doing it. They're just, I won't say nobody, but listen, the majority of you guys are coming into labor and delivery in the hospital with just like a backpack or a duffel bag, maybe a luggage, and that's it. And you're just like, yeah, this room's fine. This, beige walls and these sheets are okay, and this pillow will have to do. And thank you for this, stiff gown. Thank you. And that's it, right? And I try to incentivize, or maybe not incentivize, but I try to, sell the idea of bringing a little bit more of your personal tastes and setting the vibe in your birth room, in your environment, and how important that is. So the twinkly lights and the aromatherapy with essential oils. If you have a really favorite lotion or fragrance, like bring it. Put a little bit on your pulse points, on your wrists, and like just feel good. Put on some zen, spa-like music when you need it. And when you're early labor, put on the dance music. Put on stuff that makes you feel good, right? If you love Christmas, girl, and it's June, bring in the Christmas stuff. I don't know, but being able to set that environment is going to set the mood of the whole team. So not only you and, pumping up that oxytocin, but your nurses and your doctors, they're going to come in and be like, oh, this girl knows what she's about to do, even when you don't, right? But you at least know yourself. So you're bringing yourself into your birth to meet your baby. I think it's such a smart and beautiful thing to do. And it gives this vibe that you have control over a situation that you may not feel like you have control over. And we go into that with Lynsey today. And I was surprised because I did hear about hypnobirthing when I was in labor and delivery, but I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Like, I didn't know much else. Like, the name hypnobirthing, I really was like, are they hypnotized in there? Like, what is their doula doing to her in there? And when I would go in, it's like, okay, she was present. It just seemed like she was breathing, but she was pretty calm. And she had these tools set up, and she had her room like ready to go. Like, so, like, it didn't feel like a hospital room when I walked in there, and I loved it. I loved her birth plan. I loved everything about it. And even the nurses, even though they would maybe roll their eyes or like, oh, she's gonna have this one of those, and it kind of was that like that preconceived, I don't know, reputation or whatnot of being this like natural hippie delivery, and she's going to be so disappointed when it doesn't go her way. But you know what? I started realizing that, yeah, we can't plan for it, and sometimes it doesn't end up the way we wanted, and those births do still have a risk of going into a C-section. But do you think those moms are going in with fear or looking back at it as a traumatic experience? No, no. It's just your mindset. It's an amazing tool to have in your toolbox, in your bag of tricks, and just to learn something. And it's part meditation, it's part breath work, it's part of setting your environment, and it's something that you can carry on. And I didn't mention this, we didn't talk about this much, but you can, all the skills that you learn through hypnobirthing and anything like it carries on into the newborn stage, toddler stage, into your relationship with your partner. It's controlling your stress levels. It's controlling what you can inside of you when everything around you feels like it's losing control, when you can't control those things. So I won't like go on any farther because I want to jump into the interview that I got to have with Lynsey McGillivray from Scotland. And I think I said her name right. And I was just so happy that she agreed to come on the podcast. She owns a business called Born This Way Hypnobirthing, and I'll leave that and her information in the show notes for you to contact her yourself. If you are interested in learning more about hypnobirthing and having an expert of 12 years, she's been doing this for 12 years. She moved from midwifery, and even though she's still registered as a licensed midwife, she is now fully into doula work and hypnobirthing so that she could be more accessible to her clients. And I 1,000% agree with that feeling. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm just excited for you to hear our conversation today. So let's get into it with Lynsey McGillivray. Welcome to the Birthlink Podcast, presented by My Friend's a Nurse. I'm your host, Colette McCullicher, a high-risk labor and delivery nurse right here in sunny California. I'm also an OB certified specialist, birth educator, lactation expert, and mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I am passionate about guiding you through the miraculous journey of pregnancy and childbirth, using evidence and history and asking the reason why. I have some incredible medical friends and colleagues, and we're all here to help you navigate this often overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal is to gain trust in birth, improve this system, and provide some valuable insights. Let's make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome to the Birthlink Podcast. We're back, and I'm with Lynsey today. She is all the way from Scotland, and I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I know there's like quite a time difference, so we had to work that out. I think it's 8 hours time you're ahead of us. I'm in Los Angeles, so I'm so glad that we were able to work it out and we were able to chat. Let's just jump in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started in hypnobirthing and the birth world, and what interests you? How you got into it?
Perfect. So my background is that I am a registered midwife. I had never heard of hypnobirthing when I was training at university or when I was working in the hospital. And all I had ever really seen was how birth is portrayed on TV. So a lot of interventions, a lot of pain relief, a lot of C-sections. And just thought that's the way birth was. I thought, well, women can choose to be induced. They can choose to have C-sections. They can choose to have pain relief. And I just assumed that that was the norm. Everything I'd read in textbooks about birth being this very normal, natural event wasn't always what I saw. I did see it sometimes, but not as often as I thought I would. So one day I got asked to help out in the birthing suite where it was a midwife only area, and they said the girl's using hypnobirthing techniques. She's 8 centimetres dilated. Why don't you go in there and help? And I kind of looked at my colleague and I thought, what on earth is hypnobirthing? So had no idea what I was walking into, had never heard that word before. And I walked into this room and it completely changed not only how I thought about birth, but my whole career. So this woman was in the pool, leaning over the pool and basically breathing really deeply. And I remember looking at my watch and thinking, well, this is going to be the longest shift of my entire life because she is not in labour. 20 minutes later, this baby just came out her body, and it was the most amazing birth I have ever seen. To this day, nothing has ever beaten that birth. Her partner just knew the right things to do, the right things to say. The midwife was quite standoffish. She just allowed her body to do what it was designed to do. But also the environment was very different to anything I'd seen before. It almost felt like a spa, is the only way I can describe it. It was very dark and cosy, and they had lovely smells and lovely lighting, and they had lovely music playing. So there was so much put into environment that I noticed it was so different to anything I had seen before. So I thought, what on earth was that? And why is everybody not doing it that way? So I was really lucky. I trained at a hospital that offered hypnobirthing as part of the NHS. So we get free healthcare here in Scotland. So women were offered that for free, but it was very restricted. So it was either offered to people who have had previous traumatic births that were looking for a better experience, or people that had had previous C-sections. So first-time parents weren't even getting a chance to use these skills and tools, which I felt was quite unfair. So I thought, I'm going to go and train and find out more about this. So that's what I did. Originally, I thought it would just be a bit of a hobby, and I've been doing it for 12 years. So I've taught over 1,000 couples all over the world. Luckily, Zoom has allowed me to teach people in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, Brussels, Amsterdam, lots of different places, which is amazing. But the difference it makes for people is just incredible. It gets them from a place of panic, fear, uncertainty, to a place of just having a toolkit to go into labour so that they're ready for whatever way their birth goes.
Amazing. And I agree with you so much. Like, I remember working in labor and delivery. I mean, I still work in labor and delivery, but I just remember all the times that I would enter into a room, let's say it's the beginning of my shift, and I don't know what I'm expecting. Or maybe the nurse told me, like, oh, she's doing hypnobirthing, or she has a doula in there, or something that makes it a little bit elevated. I know when I walk in, I'm going to be experiencing something a little bit different than just the standard hospital. And I walk in and I'm just like transported into, like you said, a spa with beautiful twinkly lights and smells. It's like they're hitting all their senses to create their own environment, and you wouldn't even recognize it as a hospital room. And I tell my clients, I tell any of my friends, if you can, and you can, like, transform that room so that it's something that you're comfortable in. Make the music something that you love, right? Maybe make it very zen, and make it like you can change it. Zen at one point, maybe more in transition, but in the beginning, put on some dance music, You don't need the bright lights and nothing on, and it's just like this sterile room that you're not comfortable in. And that alone, changing your environment, is amazing. And then you said something like, oh, and those moms are like, they're not any different than the mom next door that's not doing it. They're not this granola, hippie woman. It's just they're taking more control of what they can control. And in birth, it's so little, especially in a hospital. So it's so empowering. It also changes from the nurse point of view. And I'm sure as a midwife, like it lowers our cortisol. Absolutely. It lowers our stress level. The second I walk in that room, I'm like, okay, I'm not, okay, what do we have to do? We got to do this. Why don't you do that? We're like, slow everything down. So it's a lot easier probably for that midwife to just be hands off when they're like, wait, everything's in her control. She's got this. And all of a sudden we trust her a little bit more. It's so sad that you said that they wait until you have a traumatic delivery. And then they're like, okay, now we'll cover it. Like, oops,
Yeah,
instead of preventing it.
it's very frustrating.
So interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that have had previous traumatic births and are looking for a different way. And I love teaching clients like that, but it also makes me quite sad that they've had to go through that, first of all, and they didn't know that there was another way to prepare so that they could feel in control. And really, the biggest thing people take from it is how many options and choices they actually have in birth. And so many people don't know that. They just hand their power over to someone else. And actually, the only person who should be making the decisions in that room is the woman herself. So it's incredible to see how helpful it is, regardless of what number of baby it is. But my aim is to work with first time mums so we can try and change the culture of birth, and it's not having these traumatic births first of all and then looking for a different approach second time round.
It's hard to sell something that, like, it's a problem that they don't know even exists. It's easy
Exactly.
to sell a pill or sell a plan or a course when they're in pain and they're like, "Can you fix me?" Or their baby's crying or not sleeping, and like, "Hey, I have a clear problem. Can you help that?" But they don't know if they've never given birth. They just don't know what to expect when they get in that room, and they literally hand it over to their nurses and doctors who are not in their body, and they're not understanding what the woman is actually capable of. And I feel like nurses and doctors, we don't trust them. We don't even trust women to make decisions over their own body. So we push back and we hold back. But something like that environment, just starting that, or we'll get more into what hypnobirthing is, but just like your own breath and your own mental state and what your own thoughts, no one else can control that.
Exactly.
And
It's the
once
one
you
thing you
have
can
power
control.
over that, yeah, it's almost like a force field around you that they can't enter. And I just love that. And I love that you said a bath, because then that's also a physical thing that she can have around her to keep their hands off as best as possible. So let's get into what exactly hypnobirthing is, right? It might have the reputation or just the word itself. Like, I don't want to be hypnotized. My brain always just, I'm probably yours too, like hypnobirth. Like, I don't want to be like, what is that? That's weird. I don't know.
It's a
Can
weird
you
word.
explain?
I think for the last 12 years, a lot of what I've done over those 12 years is tell people what it's not rather than what it is, because everybody has an idea in their head what they think it is, but actually it's very different to what a lot of people think. I think the word hypno automatically makes people think that I have a pocket watch and I'm going to put them into a trance and they're not even going to know they're in labour and they're going to be so out of it and out of control. It's absolutely not that. Or they think I'm going to be coming to their house to teach them privately or in a group setting, and it's going to be very hippy dippy and we're all going to sing kumbaya and we're all going to hug each other, and that's what people think it is, and it's not that. I mean, if that's what people want to do, I'm all for that, but that's not what it is. The hypno part is basically distraction techniques. I truly believe that your mind is so much of what birth is. It controls so much of it. Your body is designed to do this process, but if your mind takes over and shuts you down, birth will not happen. You need to feel safe, you need to feel supported, and if you don't feel safe and supported, and you don't feel that the environment you're in is a safe place for you to give birth, labour will stop. It's as simple as that. So the tools and techniques that I teach give you distraction techniques, and the best way I can describe it is like a toolkit to take into labour that helps you manage whatever way your labour goes. A lot of people think hypnobirthing is something you're doing if you're planning to have an unmedicated birth. And I think originally when hypnobirthing first started, that's what it was aimed at. It was a pain-free, drug-free birth. That's not what I teach at all, because you just don't know how it's going to go. So what you need to do is prepare for everything and anything, and that's what I teach. Giving people tools to navigate an unplanned C-section is so valuable, giving them tools if they go overdue and have to be induced for a medical reason, or if they go into preterm labour. You know, it is so unpredictable that these tools can be applied no matter what way it goes. So hypnobirthing is science-based, it's logical. It's been around since the 1930s. There was a doctor called Grantley Dick Reed who wrote a book called Childbirth Without Fear. And a lot of his studies are based on the principles of hypnobirthing. It is using tools and techniques to keep you calm, keep you relaxed, because the more calm you are, the easier it is for your muscles to work. If you're in a state of fear, your body tenses up and your muscles can't work efficiently, which then leads to more pain and discomfort. So if we can give your mind ways to stay calm and relaxed, your body will respond better. And that is really simply what it is. But I have so many people think they know what it is and think it's a bit weird and a bit woo-woo, and it's not like that at all. It's a full antenatal education course, but instead of just giving you information, it's giving you ways to navigate the system. Because as you know, Clay, it is a system that takes some navigation. And you could have a plan A and it could turn into a plan B very quickly. And we need ways to stay calm. And not only are these tools useful for the women giving birth, but for the birthing partner as well. If they don't know what's going on in the room and they don't have tools to keep them calm or physical, practical ways to support their partner, it can feel really overwhelming for them. And then they can't be the best support on the day. So it is valuable for whoever does it, and regardless of what kind of birth plan they choose.
Yeah, so definitely recommend that if you're listening and you're pregnant, if you decide that you want to try hypnobirthing and you start researching it, or you want to work with Lynsey, you have a really good conversation with your partner or anyone that's going to be in that room with you so that you can explain what it is and how they can support you. Could you give us a couple of ways that a partner could support them, like actual things they could
So
take away
we
with?
teach breathing exercises, we teach massage tools, we teach how to get people into comfortable positions for labour. We focus on the impact of adrenaline and teach them how to release oxytocin and endorphins, which is our two magical hormones that are going to help you birth your baby. If adrenaline releases, your labour will stop because it doesn't think it's safe for your baby to be born. So they use lots of different distraction techniques. So we do lots of different relaxation boosters. So simply things like focusing on the environment. We use birth partner scripts that if they can see you're just not relaxed as you were when you were first at home before you went to the hospital, or when the midwife turns up if you're having a home birth, they can read a script that you will have practiced that you will then respond to. They have little triggers like anchors where they touch you in certain places that make you feel safe. So whether that's a squeeze of the hand, a touch of the shoulder, something that you've practiced in pregnancy that you then respond to. But they also have relaxation tracks to listen to, affirmations that they can listen to on repeat. But a big part of the birth partner's role is advocating and understanding the processes so that they can decide together what is the right thing for them and their baby.
I like that you said the word practice, because this isn't just I'm deciding, I'm watching a quick video and that's it and I'm going in. It really starts like you have to daily practice. That's what I teach my clients, and same thing. And I didn't realize it when I was before, I'll be honest, before this year, before I really started diving in, I started last September for my friend's nurse. That's when I really decided I need to learn what all these different techniques are that are out here. And I just skimmed the surface. I kind of created my own type without calling it hypnobirthing, since I haven't been trained in hypnobirthing exactly. So I'm using everything I'm learning to create my own type of method, but it's still the same type of method where you're using your senses like touch and feel, like your sight, your smells, the smell of the room to bring you and keep you present. It's just so funny to me that like before this year, I was 7 years working in labor and delivery, and not once did any one of my superiors or a training video, they have us watch all these training videos on what to do for hemorrhage, shoulder dystocia, epidural, like what does the medication risk and benefits, but not once didn't anyone explain to us what hypnobirthing was or how we could support women and their partners with these types of things like touch and our sounds and our voice and what words we use. Not once. And maybe I'm just like, I don't think so. I don't think I'm just like, I missed that day of school. I've been doing this a while in different hospitals, and I see how other nurses act, and then I see how they react when they hear that someone's doing hypnobirthing or even like a natural birth, right? She doesn't want epidural. They roll their eyes like, okay, because that's how we were trained. That's the culture of nursing, and we care. We love what we do, and we want a great birth for you, but we kind of squeeze that out of ourselves so that we're so policy driven and we're so like high risk skills driven. And that's great. So we serve a purpose, but I so wish that, and even you said in midwife school, you had no idea what it was. So that was crazy to hear too. Cause I thought, well, midwives will know. It's beyond me how we don't all have an understanding. And I'm so glad that I do now, because it's actually helped me as a nurse. I use the stuff that I'm teaching. I use meditation, breath work. If I am in a high risk C-section, it was an emergency, we're all rushing. All of a sudden, there's like 20 people in the room doing different things. That's how mistakes happen. That's how, the ball gets dropped, and we have panic, and we have our own PTSD and traumas as nurses and staff. But I've realized I've been able to calm my adrenaline and become present in the room by using these same techniques. So it's not just for, the pregnant mom, but even if you're not interested, even if you're like, this isn't for me, I'm going to get an epidural, or I have a planned C-section. And like, I implore you to like find out what it's all about. Like,
Absolutely. That's what I think the biggest kind of misconceptions are about it. Like, I think a lot of people think if you're doing hypnobirthing, that means that you don't want pain relief, or if you're having a C-section, there's no point doing it. But I always say to people, like, having an epidural is not failing. Hypnobirthing is just a toolkit. It's something else you can take into your birth. But what a lot of people make their birth plan is have an epidural. But what they don't always think about is, what if the epidural doesn't work? Or what if it only works on one side of the body, or it's not a really good epidural that's been given? You need to have other things up your sleeve, not just that. And I think so many people don't realise how valuable these tools and techniques are, because, like you're saying, so much of what we're taught and what is taught to women in their pregnancies is preparing for when things go wrong. And we've almost forgotten that birth is a normal physiological process that our bodies are designed to do. And I think what a lot of the work I do is empowering people to understand what happens during labour, what is a contraction, because so many people don't know. So many people believe it's their vagina that opens up to 10 centimetres. They don't realise it's their cervix. And I think this is your own body parts, and we don't even know how they work. So much of what I do is empowering people to understand processes, their body, giving them options, choices, tools, techniques. Breathing techniques is such a tiny little part of what I teach, but that's what people are very quick to think it is. Or is that just a little bit of breathing? I'm like, a little bit. We cover a whole lot more than that.
yeah, so then if they wanted to do a hypnobirthing class, let's say they wanted to do it with you do it over Zoom, it's almost like a complete childbirth class. So they're learning
Absolutely.
how their body
It's a
works.
whole other course.
Yeah, they're going to learn how the different, I mean, this same thing with how I teach. It has to be, any class that you take has to be like a complete class, which means having these tools, which means learning how to control your own body and your own hormones and adrenaline and movements, and how to build a team around you that can advocate for you. Yeah, it's very similar without
Yeah. And
calling myself
how
hypnobirthing.
to trust the process as well. I
Yeah.
think trusting in your body's ability is such a huge bit. And like, you're the same as me. We've been on the other side of it. We've seen it, how it happens, and I think that puts us in a really good place to be able to support people going through this, because we understand the policies, the processes, how it works, but what can get in the way of those hormones working, and how to give that control back is really important, and that's what the tools give.
Yeah. And how do you support women that find that they're getting a lot of pushback from their doctor? Like if they have on their birth, they want to do hypnobirthing, they have an obstetrician who's like, no, that's not going to work. You're going to have a drone. Like, it just feels like we get such pushback.
I would say when I first started teaching 12 years ago, nobody knew what it was. And it's come a long way. I think a lot more people are a bit more open to it, especially here. But there's still a lot of people that roll their eyes and think, oh, well, we'll just get the C-section paperwork out because that's where she's going to end up,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Same
But
here. Same, like
a lot,
right now.
yeah, a lot of it is that they don't understand what it is themselves. And it's very similar to having a doula. I think people don't know what that is either, having a doula in the birth space. A lot of midwives like think that you're there almost like watching what the midwife's doing or watching what the nurse is doing, but you're there for that woman. It's about providing support, continuous support. And I think there's so many things in birth that people don't realise they can have that can help them, and that's all this is. It's tools to help them make it a better, more positive experience.
And you've moved away from midwifery then, and you're doing hypnobirthing and doula work. Is there something
Yeah,
that you
so
find out of that that you love more? That's your,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
obviously.
I I'm still a registered midwife, so I work as a sexual health advisor 2 days a week. So that's very different, but a very interesting job. I hear lots of interesting things, which makes my weekend seem very boring compared to other people's. But I just found it a struggle, very similar to you, Colette, like being in that system and not being able to give people the time that I wanted. And also, even as a pregnant woman myself, when I was going through pregnancy, I felt like you were in and out in 10 minutes when you go to your appointment. You've got a list of questions that you want to ask, and you're aware of how much stress the staff are under, and you feel like you can't ask those questions. And that's what I wanted to give people, the time and give them the energy that they need for that support, because sometimes when you go to an appointment at the hospital or go for a scan appointment, you feel like a number. You're just kind of in one door, get your appointment through and sent back out. But for that woman, that is the most exciting, special, unique thing they've ever done in their life, and they should be made to feel like that. And that's what I love that I can do, is give them that time. Because say my course is 10 hours. If I make it last 10 hours, I'm doing well. As you can tell, I like to chat. So
Same.
it never lasts 10 hours. It's always over 10 hours. So they definitely get good value for money, because they always get way more than whatever intend to do the time scale as. But that's what people need. They need that time, and it makes such a huge difference to the experience.
Yeah, I'm like, it's hard for me to get clients that are interested. They want the results that I can get them, but they don't always prioritize the time that it would take to get there. And I always ask them, like, if you can devote 30 minutes a day to just sit down and do something around your birth, like something around either your mindset or building your birth plan or watching a video or speaking to me, whatever you can do, 30 minutes a day. Or if you can't do 30 minutes a day, 2 hours a week. Devote 2 hours a week. And I promise you, you're going to get the results at the end. I guarantee it. There's no way you can't. Like, I probably, and then I tell like, look, I'm devoting probably 50 hours a week, just diving into it. I'm learning, I'm researching every day, and every day I learn something new. So I'm not saying that they're like, get rid of the idea that you have to know everything, right? But let me guide you to the things that the really important things that you need to know, and then
Yeah,
practice, right? Because
yeah.
it does take
So
time.
so much of what I say to people is, if they're spending time and money investing, like, you need to do the practice to get something out of it. It's not, if you have a good birth experience, you're not a lucky person. It's because you've worked really hard for it. You've spent time preparing your mind, preparing your body, doing all the things to make it the most positive experience it can be. But I think mindset is such a huge part, and I think a lot of people don't really know what mindset work is. But if you think about, from the moment we are born, all we hear is negative birth stories. So when you find out you're pregnant, that's where your mind goes. You think, oh my goodness, I've seen women screaming on TV shows and in movies, and they're sweaty, and it's got to be this really scary, noisy, traumatic experience. And it doesn't need to be like that. Like, I had a client last week who turned up at the hospital. She was fully dilated. She got into the pool. 2 pushes later, her baby was out. And she stayed at home. She was just eating snacks at home and dancing about her living room and just having a really lovely experience, until it got to the point where she thought, I think I'm having a baby. So had to go. but it's because our mind was so strong and she trusted the process. We're led to believe from what we see on TV that you'll feel one sensation and then a baby's about to pop out. Birth takes a lot of patience and time. And what these tools and techniques really help is to manage that early labour phase, that hanging about part where you're not quite sure, is this labour, is it not? Instead of thinking about it and tensing the whole time, it gives you ways to manage that and distract yourself through it. So mindset is huge. We're so conditioned to believe birth's awful. It's very rare people tell you positive birth stories, but there's so many out there. You just need to seek them out.
Right. And it's funny because even a story, like I was telling you before, one of my client that delivered last weekend, she did all the work. Like she came to all the master classes and the coaching calls and watched the modules and the lessons. She practiced the hypnobirthing because I sent her a video on hypnobirthing, and I have a whole lesson on breath work as well. And she really learned and put the time in to learn how her body is and trust it. And her baby ended up being breech, and she's like, whatever way it goes, it's okay. I'm gonna do the moves. I'm gonna do the spinning babies. She was researching breech without borders and possible vaginal birth and speaking. She communicating so important to get everyone around you. And it worked too well. Because she wasn't able to turn the baby, but she was talking to me in the early stages of labor while she was at home, like, I'm feeling cramping, and she was very calm about it, like, okay, well, I'm just gonna, she took a shower, so I'm gonna rest, and she ended up showing up 10 centimeters. Unfortunately, she was breached and the hospital took over, and I have yet to hear the birth story, and I know she's listening now, and I'm just like waiting on like pins and needles to hear the whole thing. But I know she handled it like a pro because she had the tools. And for any other woman, that would have probably been the most traumatic event of their lives. But because she was prepared, because she put in the work, and if that baby was head down and she showed up 10 centimeters, that baby would have come right out. And I know that is not like a unique case. When they put in the work and the time, they are showing up 7, 8, 9, 10 centimeters, quick birth, and it's joyful. It's like, okay, is it easy? Absolutely not. But I tell moms, it's if you want a natural birth, if you don't want pain meds, if that's how you're planning and you're planning for it. And now I just tell everybody that birth is like running a marathon. You're not going to just show up with your shoes on the day of the marathon and be like, yeah, I think I'll run the marathon today. Like, I didn't want to think about, I know it was going to be really hard. People have told me a marathon's really hard to run. So I didn't want to even think about it. And, I have someone that's going to run with me. I trust them. They'll get me through it. No, it doesn't work like that. You won't make it to the end. It'll be a disaster. You'll wonder what just happened to me. You have to prepare. You have to put the time in. Whether I say it's like a marathon, it's like climbing Mount Everest. It's like anything hard that you expect to put your body through. And you want to have a baby? You're going to have a baby? Guess what? It's not going to be easy, and you need someone by your side. And I'm all about the tools like prenatal yoga and stretching and working out and walking and eating right, nutrition. All of that is so important. But if you do all of that and you also don't prepare your mind, then you're going to walk into that hospital and you're going to meet Goliath, and we're going to be like, it's our show now. And you're gonna, hopefully you'll recover quicker because you've put the right nutrients in your body and you've exercised, and it could very well go right. It's like if you take a drive without a seatbelt on, you'll most likely get to your destination. It'll be all right. But if you don't but if something goes wrong, you're gonna be like, I should have worn a seatbelt. And it's
yeah, for sure.
And they usually know by the second baby.
It's so interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a shame that people don't think it's important enough. Like, I think there's so many life events, like weddings, holidays, baby showers. Baby showers are huge here. That used to be much more of an American thing. Here, Scotland, they go wild for baby showers here. And I think the planning, the preparation, the invitations, it's planned down to the exact detail. Yet so many people just rock up at the hospital and hand their power over to someone else and let them decide what's right for them and their baby. And I think there's no other time in your life that you would do that. But meeting your baby is one of the best experiences that you can ever have, and it should be planned as much as you possibly can. But planned is not restrictive. A birth plan doesn't need to be, this is how it's happening and there's no room for manoeuvre. It's about planning for everything so that you feel in control. That's the hugest part of it.
I would be more surprised when parents came in with hypnobirthing skill, like that they've planned and prepared. I'm like, oh, okay. More surprised with that than if they came in and I said, okay, has your doctor talked to you about Pitocin? They want us to get you started. Like, no, what's that? I'm like, okay, well, let me explain it to you. I was not surprised whatsoever if they came in and had no idea what the induction was going to be about or why they were even getting induced, what the medications were involved. No surprise. And I was ready to explain things to them. And the more it happened, and then yet they had zero skills or knowledge on as well on, hypnobirthing. And if they came in with that knowledge, I was like, whoa, you know about hypnobirthing. That's okay. All right. This is good. Well, let's go from here. And trust me, the ones that knew about hypnobirthing knew about Pitocin. They knew about fetal monitoring. They knew about decelerations. They knew everything. And it's like, how do you guys know all of this? You know more than me. Oh
Because
no.
knowledge is power. That's what we have to do. We need to teach people that they are in charge. They are the people that should be deciding, and if they don't know, for me, like for someone to turn up and not know what those drugs are that are used for induction, that scares the life out of me. I think, oh, you need to know what you're putting in your body, but not only the impact it has on you, but your baby too. And so many people don't even think about it. They just trust that the doctors and nurses and midwives know best. But actually, that might be the right call, and that's absolutely fine. But we need to chat about it and have that communication and make sure that is the right decision for both them and their baby.
Yeah. No matter what, it doesn't. I Please look into hypnobirthing. What if you're gonna have a baby? Look into it. Look into how you can work through your mindset. You're like, oh no, I have a strong mindset. I'm good. I'm not a care in the world. I'm so like me. I was so go with the flow. Not a lot can rock me. I'll be fine, right? But you have no idea what you're about to be in for. And the doctors are and the nurses are very, very good at quickly getting you to do whatever they want you to do. And what they want you to do may not always be the best. And that's what got me into this. This is what got me into My Friend's a Nurse, when my heart would just sink over and over, shift after shift, because I would see the reasons, I would know the reasons why doctors were recommending things. Maybe they had a full clinic that they needed to get back to, so they need to speed things up, or they had a reservation that night that they wanted to make, and they had promised that they would deliver them, so they need to deliver them one way or another. That they had a checklist that they just needed to check off. I would ask, why are you ordering Pitocin on this girl? Because day shift is coming on and we want to make sure all the boxes are checked. I got that exact response. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I still do it because I feel like I need to, but one day a week, I can't do more than that, or I start losing it. And we have to be at this. That's why I appreciate people like you and our group and our coaching group and anyone online that is shouting from the rooftops, like, be prepared, what can we do? It's like women supporting women and also men, and we're just letting them know. And I think that's how we change the system, slowly but surely. I think everyone's starting to get on board. And the healthcare system, like, we want to get things right in the hospital. I don't think doctors and nurses are doing this because we want to steal autonomy or we want to make it a toxic environment. We love birth. For whatever reason, we got into this field. For whatever reason, you got into midwifery. It wasn't so that we could create a traumatizing event, but we need to get back to trusting women and their voices and empowering them. And it starts with understanding the tools that they can come with, including hypnobirthing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, is there any final last words you can leave us with? with regards to hypnobirthing and what spiel you would give them to get them to maybe reach out to you or to just look into it?
I think that it's something that you don't get a rerun of when it's your birth. You might go on to have other children, but you only get to experience one birth experience with the baby that you're currently carrying. So this is not a dress rehearsal. What I hate is when I get people that message me and they're like, oh, it wasn't a good experience. I'm so regretting not doing your course now because my friend did it and she had an amazing experience. So my biggest thing is don't wait. If it's something that you're keen to do it and book it soon. I usually recommend people start the course around 28 weeks. I teach 4 sessions, and that allows plenty of practice time on the other side. But I do have people that do it much earlier. I do have people that phone me at 36 weeks panicking. So I try and squeeze people in whenever I can. But the practice is key, like we said, having that time to digest the information and watch the positive birth videos that I share and listen to the relaxation tracks when you go to bed at night. That's what starts to make the changes in your mindset and just builds up your confidence that you can do it. And you absolutely can. You just need to believe it. Your body's designed to do this process for sure.
I love that. That was very good. And then we can find you if they are interested in your course at Born This Way Hypnobirthing.com, correct? And then
Yeah,
find you
that's
on
correct.
Instagram at Born This Way Hypnobirthing. Is that it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect.
There's just so many negative stories about birth, and there's so many positive ones out there. I wrote a book that I released in January, which is available on Amazon, and it's a book all about positive birth stories, but it's positive birth stories that are inductions and home births and planned C-sections, unplanned C-sections, because I think the more you read those stories about different types of birth, the more you feel confident to handle whatever way birth goes. So that book's called This. Hold on, I've just forgotten. It's called, oh my goodness, Birth Actually. I was getting confused between my podcast and my book. It's called Birth.
What's your podcast?
Hopefully you can. My podcast is called This Is Birth, and it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Amazing, good.
And the book is called Birth Actually: How Hypnobirthing Helps Make Any Type of Birth Better.
I love that. Okay, so I'll have both of those in our show notes as well. Go check Lynsey out at This Is Birth podcast if you want to learn more about hypnobirthing and how to create a great experience for your birth now. I don't care if your induction is scheduled for tomorrow, you have a day. I actually do really well with parents that have zero idea and they meet me in the room on the day of their birth and I can give them, like, if I had you come in, I'm sure the day of my birth, you could change things. You could make some difference. So it's never too late. It's not even too early. And if you're interested to learn more, reach out to Lynsey or myself. Thank you so much, Lynsey. I really enjoyed our time
Thank
together.
you.
Have a good one.
Take care.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation, you guys, and you learned a little bit more about hypnobirthing, whether you are a doula or pregnant or a birth worker, whatever you're coming from. Let's dispel some of the myths and kind of change the dialogue around birth. You don't need to go through a traumatic birth to then decide that you don't want a traumatic birth. Okay. So there are tools, there are people like me, like Lynsey, that are out here to help you and make sure that that doesn't happen. Can we control what happens? No. Can we control how we react and how we see the birth that we have with this baby? Because you only get one birth with this baby. Yes, you can. So I want to thank Lynsey again for joining me this week. Next week, I'm going to get into vacuum and forceps just a little bit of the history of forceps, if we use them still, and what to expect, what questions to ask your provider. And then we're going to get into a little bit history of vacuum, the risks and how common it is. And again, what questions you can ask your provider. You want to ask them no matter what, because if you're having a vaginal delivery, this is something that may possibly come up. And I want you to be ready because it's going to be at the very end of your pushing. And it's the step before deciding a C-section. So I don't want you to decide anything with fear, only through education, prepared, and asking the right questions, and then, surrendering to it. I will see you again. Have a great week, you guys. Thanks again. Bye. Thank you for listening to My Friends and Nurse presents the Birthling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.